Hello friends, in today's video we are going to explain a mystery movie, The Empty Man. This movie is about a story of belief, madness, and the power of thought. Movie begins in 1995, with four friends hiking in a remote and ancient mountain range. Among them is Paul, a curious and adventurous man. This area is steeped in mystery. Paul suddenly hears a strange voice calling to him. None of his friends hear it, but Paul is entranced and follows the sound deeper into the wilderness. He walks ahead of the group and falls into a deep pit. Alarmed, his friends rush to the edge and find that Paul has landed in an underground cave. One friend descends into the pit using a rope to rescue Paul. Inside the cave, he discovers a chilling sight. Paul is sitting in a trance, muttering mantras. His gaze is fixed on a massive skeleton, far larger than any human. Surrounding this giant skeleton are numerous smaller skeletons, bowing in reverence to the central figure. The eerie sight leaves Paul's friend baffled. When he approaches Paul, Paul warns him in a monotone voice, "Stay away from me. If you touch me, you will be destroyed." Ignoring the warning, his friend hoists Paul onto his shoulders and climbs out of the pit. The group seeks refuge in an old wooden cabin nearby as snow begins to fall, trapping them on the mountain. Inside, they lay Paul down, but he remains unresponsive and disoriented. While two friends leave to find food, the friend staying with Paul notices an unusual musical instrument in Paul's possession. Out of curiosity, she begins to play it. Later, she steps outside and is startled to see a dark shadow moving towards her in the snow. Frightened, she rushes back inside and locks the door. The shadow approaches the cabin and knocks, sending her into a panic. After some time, the knocking stops and the shadow vanishes. When her friends return, she recounts the incident, but they dismiss her fears, believing it to be her imagination. That night, everyone goes to sleep, but Paul wakes up and whispers something inaudible into the ear of the friend staying closest to him. By morning, Paul is missing. The group finds his footprints in the snow and follows them to the edge of a cliff. There, they find Paul sitting, playing the same musical instrument, and chanting the same mantras as before. When one of his friends angrily confronts him, Paul remains silent, his gaze vacant. He resumes chanting, and the friend he whispered to earlier suddenly loses control. She attacks and kills the other two friends in a violent frenzy before turning her attention to Paul. After staring into his eyes, she ends her own life by jumping off the cliff. Paul appears emotionless, as if he orchestrated the events. The narrative jumps forward 23 years to 2018, introducing James Lasombra, a grieving man struggling with the recent loss of his wife and son in a tragic car accident. Lonely and despondent, James runs a security shop but finds little solace in his routine. One day, Amanda, the daughter of James' deceased friend, visits him. She shares philosophical musings, claiming that reality is shaped by thoughts and that the world itself is an illusion. "The things we focus on become our truth," she says cryptically before leaving. The next day, Amanda's mother discovers that Amanda is missing. In her bathroom, a chilling message is scrawled on the mirror, "The empty man made me do it." Panicked, Amanda's mother calls the police and James. Concerned for Amanda, James begins investigating her disappearance. In her room, he finds a pamphlet for an organization called the Pontifex Institute with the word Tulpat scribbled on the back. Determined to uncover the truth, James visits Amanda's school and speaks to her friends. Amanda's friend reveals that Amanda had introduced them to a local legend called the Empty Man, a supernatural entity that can be summoned by blowing into a bottle on a bridge while thinking about him. According to Amanda, on the first day, you hear his voice, on the second day, you see him, and on the third day, he comes for you. Amanda and her friends had performed the ritual at a bridge 2 nights ago. Since then, strange things had been happening, culminating in Amanda's disappearance. James visits the bridge and finds an empty bottle. Following the ritual, he blows into the bottle and thinks about the empty man. As he investigates further, he finds the bodies of Amanda's friends under the bridge, along with the same ominous message, "The empty man made me do it." James' investigation leads him to the Pontifex Institute, a mysterious organization promoting the idea that thoughts can create reality. At the Institute, He learns about the concept of a tulpa, a being created entirely through concentrated thought. The group's leader explains that the empty man is an embodiment of this idea, a thought form brought to life by collective belief. James begins to suspect the Institute's involvement in Amanda's disappearance. Following a tip, James travels to a remote forest where he discovers a secluded cabin filled with strange documents and videotapes. One tape depicts a ritual where a man becomes the host for the empty man. James also finds files on Amanda and himself, but his own file is curiously empty. Disturbed by the implications, James returns to the city. James eventually discovers a hospital where Paul, the hiker from 1995, has been in a coma for 23 years. He learns that Paul served as the host for the empty man during this time. Amanda reveals the horrifying truth: James is not real. He is a tulpa, created by the Pontifex Institute as a replacement host for the empty man. His memories, emotions, and identity were fabricated to make him the perfect vessel. Everything James believed about his life, including his family and grief, was an illusion implanted in his mind. The revelation shatters James' sense of self. Amanda explains that Paul's body is too weak to sustain the empty man, and James was created to take his place. In a final act of realization, James kills Paul, severing the old connection, and the empty man fully possesses him. The cult members bow before James, recognizing him as the new host for their god. The film concludes with James accepting his role as the empty man's vessel. He understands that his existence is part of an eternal cycle. When his body weakens, the cult will create a new tulpa to replace him, perpetuating the reign of the empty man. The movie ends with James' transformation complete, leaving the audience with a haunting sense of inevitability. So friends, that's all for today's video. See you in the next video. If you like this video, then like and subscribe to my channel.